So anyway, we were arguing about Ron Paul on the Facebook. So we're just bringing it on. Plus, how you pronounce your last name, Antonio?
Buehler.
Beeler.
Buehler.
Beeler.
It's actually
Dave,
Buehler.
no.
Hey Dave, we met
Likes
before.
to get a cap's hell, huh?
Hi, I'm Antonio.
We also argue about veterans
Gabino.
for Ron
Antonio.
Paul, but
Yeah, let me turn this off. I don't want to ruin your show.
Hey, Katie, make sure that doesn't ring.
it's a trailer park. You can't hardly.
Everything goes.
Yeah.
Anything goes, it's all right. Beware. You might be sharp, you might not be sharp.
Yeah, then we won't be too. I told Brisket Master we wouldn't be too hard on you.
The only thing that we have to say is we used to be members of Cop Watch.
Yeah.
So,
So you blew it when you started hollering at the cops.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's yes sir, no sir, no, I will not stop filming, but I will not intervene. And they can back you clear across the street.
Well,
But
I disagree with that, but
you were lucky with the guy across the street, because that's another way we used to do it, is you always have two cameras. One close and one far.
Why don't you explain to your audience what you're talking about?
Yeah, all right, we're going to watch the film. This young man here came to the rescue of two good-looking girls.
yeah.
New Year's Eve night, I guess.
Yeah, it was after 12.
After 12, you're getting gas, and they were giving one of them a DWI check, walk the line, all that stuff. Why don't you tell him?
Right. So the sedan was there in between us and the street. The female driver was behind the vehicle getting a field sobriety test. The female passenger was sitting there not doing anything as far as we were concerned, and we were just filling up gas. We saw the Oborski, the officer who was giving the sobriety test, walk up to the car, lean in, say something. He apparently said, stop talking, went back, and at some point, the passenger then yelled to her friend, don't submit to a field sobriety test, or don't submit to a breathalyzer. He told his partner, Snider, go get her. He went up there, opened the door, but from our point of view, it just looked like they were talking. Like they didn't have anything to do because the other girl was being given a field sobriety test. And then next thing we know, we're ready to leave. We just hear a violent scream from the girl, turn around, and we see the cop pulling her out of the car, throwing her to the ground, twisting her arms back. Oborski comes up and joins in. And by any objective measure, it was unnecessary roughness. It was abusive. And so we just pulled out our cameras, tried to take photos, and I started yelling at the cops, what did she do? Why are you doing that? Stop hurting her. They then picked her up, handcuffed her, walked her past us towards the back cruiser. At that time, Oborski, the officer who was given the sobriety test in the first place, he comes walking up to me and yelled. First thing he says is, I believe, what are you taking pictures for? Who do you think you are? And I said I was allowed to. And then he pushes me, and then he kept pushing me back into the truck. I immediately threw my arms up and said, what are you touching me for? You have no right to touch me. He just kept pushing, and eventually he said, you're under arrest. He said that I spit on him, which I never did. Then they arrested me.
You were talking loudly, probably just...
Oh, I was screaming. I mean, he was in my face, and he was yelling, so I was yelling too.
Well, we can certainly commend you for coming to the aid of damsels in distress, but on the other hand, they got laws. And you can't really press the cops too much. But I can see how some people say these. Is it true that one officer has 300 DWI arrests in 1 year?
Right, Oborski, he's a DWI guy. Wow. He's been doing
300 in 1 year?
300 in 1 year. He was commended by Mothers Against Drunk Driving last year. He was given an award for arresting so many people. But as far as there's laws, there was no law broken that night by anyone except for the cops. I didn't break a law. The female passenger didn't break a law. It was two cops that went beyond what their official duties were.
What was the official charge they get you for?
Harassment of a public servant, which is a felony, and resisting arrest.
And that's not a felony?
That's a misdemeanor.
That's a misdemeanor.
So you got a felony and a misdemeanor.
That's right.
What's your lawyer have to say?
Lawyers are pretty confident. Everyone who's seen this, everyone except for the APD really is on my side, and the other females. They know what happened was a case of two cops who took things too far, went beyond their rights, their duties, and infringed upon the rights of citizens.
When's your case coming up?
February 2nd is the next court date, but that's probably going to get changed because that's the misdemeanor.
Oh, that's and there's going to be another rally for you this Saturday. Is that correct?
That's right. They set up a rally for 3 p.m.
Lord have mercy.
Who's they?
Yeah, thank you for your service
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah, my
Well,
pleasure.
we should point out that Antonio is a West Point graduate and went to
A
Stanford
captain, was it?
graduate school. And,
Right.
yeah.
Holy cow! I mean, that's I know
It means
that's
you
not
stayed,
a colonel
stayed
or
in for
major,
more than a
but-
few minutes. So.
In West
You
Point?
stayed, you stayed in afterwards.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I did my 5-year commitment.
That's good. Okay, well, I guess we'll see how it comes out. Did we? How much? Oh yeah, when this first happened a couple of weeks ago, I had a rather lengthy video that I can't find now that showed all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened to that? Did we have any more on there, Mo? No, not right now. Okay, well, anyway,
So what would be your advice if someone in the future were to observe something like that and wanted to also take pictures of the incident so they
so
wouldn't
far maybe.
so they wouldn't end up
I would encourage them to do the exact same thing. What we have in this country is we have too often people are willing to back down because the government, not the government, people in the government think that they're all powerful. And every single time they take up more and more of our rights and people back down, that just gives them the encouragement to keep going. What we need everyone to do what I did and thank God what other people that night did. If it wasn't for the other witnesses who stepped forward, the other guy who was taking video, I'd be in a much worse situation. I'm facing these felony charges, but I'm extremely confident that there's no way any jury in Austin would ever convict me based on the evidence, because all we have is cops' lies. That's all we have on their side. But no, if everyone steps forward, if everyone takes pictures, if everyone asks questions when the cops go beyond their duty and infringe upon the rights of others, we're going to live in a better community. So no, I don't suggest that people back down at all.
Do we really think APD is going to push this all the way to a trial?
I think that if they did, it's going to be really embarrassing for them.
Yeah.
Well, if we had all the people doing that, I know you're supposed to be yes sir, no sir, and they can back you up as far as they want, but you can't scream at them
Why not?
because that's
Then
the
you
law,
get
I
the
guess.
interference.
I don't know, why not?
It's not a
But-
law.
No,
Right?
No.
It's not a law.
All right, Mom, we used to do
We
cop
used to
watch.
be some of the people who helped found Austin Cop Watch.
Okay.
Okay. This was years and years ago, and we also negotiated with APD as far as what we could and what we couldn't do.
Mhm.
And one of the things is you can't say nothing. You can't interfere with what they're doing.
I wasn't interfering.
Well, you can't say anything to them. You can't really do
If
anything.
they're
But you
breaking
call
the
that
law,
interfering.
but they
They can
didn't.
call that. They
But they
can
didn't.
call that interference.
But they didn't.
But then, they could call it harassing. They could call it interference. Whatever. We used to, like I said, we used to do it. They used to come out. They busted some people in the car,
Right,
and they
show
came
us the
over to
stuff,
us
huh?
with what they found in the car, whether it was a throwdown or not.
I
But
guess
they
it
came
was.
over, and they would do stuff. But there was a procedure that we did. Basically, what we filmed could be either used by your side or the law enforcement side. So basically, we were like there as what do you call it?
Neutral-
Mediator.
neutral observer.
Right.
Yeah, in neutral observer, not getting involved in anything. What you could have done, well, what we would have probably done in that situation, filmed it, take it to Jim Harrington at the Texas Civil Rights Project and let him deal with it. Put it in his thing.
So what I am arguing is if you see cops breaking the law, that
Film it.
No.
Take it to Jim Harrington.
I think that if you see cops breaking the law, you should film it and say something. These cops, if they're breaking, the only difference
Okay.
between me and you and a cop is they have a badge and a gun. If they're breaking the law, we should say something. And it's within our rights to do so.
I guess we're just arguing about the best way to fight it.
Right.
And I always thought, for now, we're in the courtroom, briefcase. Okay, we're gonna take this caller. Go ahead.
Hey, Antonio, it's Robert Moore here. I want to thank you so much for sticking up for the rights of that passenger lady who was being false arrested, and for letting those policemen know they should not be doing that. I want to thank you for, just, being a good citizen.
Thanks, Robert.
Robert Merle, our famous Sex with Rick Perry, Robert Merle.
Yeah. Hey,
How you
another
doing?
key point here that nobody's been talking about is that this cop said that Antonio Buehler spit on him, yet he did not charge him with assault. So you know the cop's lying.
You know I'm on
Because spitting on a policeman is assault, and he wasn't charged with that. And he comes up with this little spitting thing later to justify another false arrest of another citizen. So those cops falsely arrested two different people for no good reason at all, and that's called official oppression. And I think that Oborski and that other guy, Snider, ought to be kicked off the force and not be cops ever again. And I think you ought to sue the city of Awesome and take them for all they're worth. That's my 2 cents.
And then have a big party with the money you get from suing them?
Do whatever you want to with it.
What do you really think you should confront the police that heavily, or just...
Yes, because they think that the First Amendment is not legal if you're talking to them.
All right, Robert.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, as you said, how heavily? You know,
Right. I mean, he said.
Yeah.
I mean, you said confront him that heavily, and I haven't seen. I would really like to see the APD video where you can hear what's going on. I mean,
Have they
I
released
don't
it?
know whether.
No, they got a...
I don't know whether you I mean, I haven't seen it all. I don't know whether you overstepped the line or not. But there is. I mean, there is a line that a citizen shouldn't cross. From everything I've heard, doesn't sound like you crossed that line. But at the same token, I haven't seen what the APD has.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. All right, line 4.
Did you have your?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Your ring marker?
All right, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. Actually, I've been watching this, the unfolding of this whole event. I'm actually a friend of Antonio's. Hi, Antonio. This is Chase here, calling in to say hi to you. I saw this unfold on Facebook, starting off with photographs, and then fortunately, someone did actually have a video, miraculously enough, from across the street of on 10th Street and Lamar, where the incident happened. Totally thought that was amazing. Thanks to the person who sent that in. I don't think there would be much of a case without that, quite honestly. I don't think the news would have picked it up. And we go back and forth every other day or so on Facebook. Thanks to social media, we can all get the word out about what's been going on with Antonio. Obviously his background with being a military officer that graduated from West Point and being a school teacher is plenty enough evidence that his credibility is there for somebody who would respect a police officer. Antonio, I was just curious, the Oborski was the police officer that did manhandle you to the ground and saying that you spit in his face. It never really came out exactly what was his exact words as far as, or did you even get that from him as far as how he said you spit on him? And I don't really understand that. Is he saying it was just coming out of your mouth while you were talking, or is this going to be like a deliberate projection of saliva out of your mouth onto him? I mean, what have you heard anything about what he's saying in specific about that, or is that going to have to come up in court?
Well, he said I spit on him, and as soon as he said that, I said bull. Like, obviously I didn't spit on you. I think the assertion was that there was spittle, which I question even if that even happened. I mean, he wanted to, he was close enough to kiss me, so I'm sure that he felt moisture in the air. But I certainly didn't spit on him. According to the law, the way it's written, it talks about, it has to be intentional. It has to be with intent. It has to be real spit. And that is certainly not going to be backed up by anything that they have. We have 3 witnesses who say BS, that didn't happen, including my passenger and the 2 females and the video, and hopefully the dash cams that the APD has the courage to release them, and the 7-Eleven video if that covers it. So that's not going to happen. But everyone focuses on Oborski, and Oborski is out of control. and he broke a law
Is that
that
the
night.
300 DWI guy?
Yes,
Good
but there's another cop
Trying to make
here.
it 302.
Well, but there's another cop here named Snider, and everyone's overlooking this guy. He's the guy who began all this when he assaulted the female, when he threw the woman, yanked the woman out of the car and threw her to the ground. And I just want to make sure that everyone doesn't forget that there are 2 cops out there who abused, assaulted citizens, and then falsely charged them with crimes that they never committed.
I got a question. He went after the girl because she had refused to comply with the DWI test, right?
No, that.
Hey, let me comment on that if you don't mind,
Passenger.
guys.
You just advised
Before you
her,
let me
right?
go.
It was inside
Yeah.
the car.
Wow,
All
that's
right,
just
quickly,
way
Colin, we
out
gotta
of
hurry.
line. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me comment on this. You know, there was a gentleman that actually posted the law on Facebook, the exact penal code that talks about what the exact definition of the law is when it comes to interference with a police investigation. And the first law that the police officers broke was the woman verbally instructing her friend to not take the field sobriety test, because that was her being wrongfully arrested for verbally telling the cops not to arrest her friend. Okay, then Antonio basically is doing the same thing, videoing or actually taking photographs at the time. I so wish he had his video camera on at the time, but I'm sure he does too, of the cop approaching him at the time whenever the cop was saying, hey, you're basically interfering with us, and you know you can't photograph us or anything like that. But I'm guessing later on are they saying that your verbal interjections were the initial interference? Is that kind of the way that went, or?
They've never claimed.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on. Go ahead.
They never claimed interference except for very briefly when he was yelling at me. After the first thing he said, the first 2 things he said is, "Why are you taking pictures and who do you think you are?" It's not illegal to take pictures.
No, it's not.
And it doesn't
Don't matter who you are.
And it doesn't matter who I am. I'm a citizen. I have civil liberties. He's a cop, but that doesn't give him the power to strip away anyone's civil liberties.
Sure don't. Quickly before I go on this next one.
Well, I was just going to ask, have they advised you to file internal affairs and the home police monitors dog and
So,
pony show?
I've done that.
Dog and pony show. huh?
I mean, that's all
I've
it
done
is.
that, and both female victims have done that as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
TJ
good luck.
can go. He's going to stay for a little while. I told him, come on down for what you can. I know he wanted to have something to say. Go ahead, caller. Hurry up. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jerry.
Hey.
And I just want to thank Antonio for what he's doing to stand up for all of us. And I want to say that we have a real problem in this country where we've gone from people who self-govern to being subject to cops who abuse their authority all the time, and us being expected just to stand there and take it or be arrested. I mean, during the time of our Puritan forefathers, had any of them ever seen a man, whether he had authority or not, abuse a woman? That man would have been dragged behind a horse through the bramble bushes. They didn't put up with that kind of stuff. And to say that we have to stand there and only take pictures and not say anything when we see a cop pulling the same maneuver that just landed a Border Patrol guard or Border Patrol agent in the federal pen, that is ridiculous. We have a problem in this country when people who try to cover their heads from being kicked by officers are arrested for resisting arrest. We have a problem when people have to stand by in California and watch a small, slight guy named Kelly Thomas get beat to death. And we ought to be sick about this, and sick that there are officers in this city acting in this manner.
I guess I'm part of the problem, because I'm the one advocating just take pictures and say yes sir, no sir. But you're right. If you'd, there wasn't that probably in my lifetime, you'd have seen anybody treat a girl like that.
And if there wasn't anything being done wrong, I don't feel that APD should have reacted that way. I think that's why they reacted the way you reacted, because you were filming something that they obviously were doing, that it's not out of the norm. I had an incident where
Tell us about that one.
where a 55-year-old female was sitting in her driveway on the way to the store when APD and SWAT came all around her house looking for her son, supposedly a fugitive, wanting to go inside the house, and she asked for a warrant. And they said, we don't need a warrant. We're going to go into your house. And she said, no, you're not until you get a warrant. And then the debating went on, and you know, to the point that they pulled her out of the car, dragged her out of the car, threw her cell phone. Somebody's grandma threw her cell phone on the ground, and told her that she was not being cooperative. And she said, all I'm asking you is for a warrant. You know, we live in a country where you need to provide a warrant, and they're claiming that, well, because someone said that her son may be in the house, that there's a law that allows them to go into a home if they suspect that a fugitive is inside the home. And she said, well, my son is not there. And guess what? Her son, believe it or not, was in jail and had been in jail for 2 months.
Horrible. Wow.
Okay? For 2 months.
Anything else, ma'am?
Well, I just want to say that any man who stands there and allows another man, regardless of who he is, to unlawfully manhandle a woman just needs to mail in his man parts because he doesn't need them.
I guess I got mine hung up on the damn wall somewhere. I forgot to put them on. Well, you know, you're not supposed to interfere, and I always figured...
But you'd have a hard time not saying something in that situation.
Probably, yeah. You'd have to say something.
Well, in this case, you know, they advised her. Well, you have go to internal affairs, go to the police monitors. It's almost been a year and a half, and nothing is going to be done.
They're there to deflect attention.
Because the police monitor is nothing but a fake institution.
Damn, that should make me feel bad. Cause you're right. You should. I guess you did do right to say something. I guess I'd have had to cooperate, though. Throw me in jail. If you want me to film, I'll back up wherever you want me to back up to. But
Yeah.
Well, as long as your form of interference was primarily verbal, I don't see where they should have had a problem with you. As long as you were not actually interfering with them being able to do their duty, they have no real grounds for that's why you're going to get off.
The rules we were supposed to go by. Yeah, you wouldn't believe me, a hardcore card-carrying Republican. I'm hanging around these Berkeley kids. Yeah, .com it says. Well, anyway, yeah, it's but this was several years ago, and we would go out, and back then they had to play those cop radios. You could follow them on your scanner, and so we would go out and just tape stuff.
And I think you mentioned that not all cops are bad cops, but there are bad cops, and those are the ones that need to be.
300 DWIs a year. I mean, you don't work with how many days a year?
And I think that says a lot for your position, because you're not condemning the whole police department. You're only identifying those that no longer need to be in uniform.
They're going to protect this guy, though, the cop, because he's a cash cow for the city.
Well, not only that, he's union. He's union. A lot of money. You know, the union is going to back him up whether he's guilty or not.
But the union backing up this guy, both these guys, that creates a problem. If the union cares about the police, it's just like the teachers union. You know, you shouldn't defend the bad teachers. If you want to have people respect your union, and if you want people to respect the members, whether they be police or teachers, get rid of the bad ones and don't defend them.
That's where you get into the area where Republicans will sympathize, because the unions protect not only the good people but the bad people as well. They don't make a difference. They don't differentiate.
Quickly, go ahead.
Okay, this Saturday, January 28th, on the steps of the APD, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to have a little demonstration out there.
That's the northeast corner, right?
Pardon me?
Right there by 35.
Yes, right there on the front steps, 3 o'clock this Saturday, January 28th. Hope we can get a lot of people out there, because that's what's going to get this message across, is the fact that we're just not going to let it die down, and we're angry, and we're out here in mass, and that's the only thing these people, I think, is going to get across. As was pointed out, going to the police and filing a formal complaint, we might as well spit into the wind. Speaking of spitting, there you go.
I better get my huevos off the hook on the wall and come on down on Saturday, huh?
Well, come on, we're going to be there.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you, this particular lady, after the incident, her whole family lives in that whole block. They have a very large family that lives in this one block. And for a week and a half, all her family members were being stalked, okay?
Everywhere they went, there was a cop, huh?
Everywhere they went, they got
Were they
stopped.
section?
They got questioned. Some of them had tickets they had minor tickets, traffic violation tickets
You know
that had
what?
been in the books for years.
Okay.
But that was
You know
enough
what?
for them to stop them.
I
So
was
have
at
you
I was
been
at
stopped
the
or harassed
meeting.
since the incident occurred? You have?
Okay.
I have not been harassed, but I heard
Hold on,
stories. I've
Okay.
heard stories which were very disturbing about police misconduct, and then when someone steps out and says something about that, then a lot of things happen. After that, I've been fortunate. I think that the amount of attention that this has gotten has insulated me from that, and I think that even the cops who might be sympathetic, they realize that these two guys went so far over the bounds that it's hard to defend them. Although it's been interesting, a couple of blogs, you look at the blogs and it's the cop blogs, and again, not all cops are bad, but just the way they just trip all over themselves to try to justify what they did or what people did. There's an incident up in Seattle, I believe. It was in the Pacific Northwest, where a special needs woman was elbowed by a cop. It made the rounds on
I
YouTube.
saw that on YouTube once.
Yeah, and
can-
almost everyone said it was complete BS.
Can we
But
hurry up here?
but there was a cop blog, and 15 straight cops, every single one said it was justified because she stepped
Yep,
at him or
it's
she was
scary.
aggressive.
All right, go ahead,
It's
Colin.
scary.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say
Yeah.
hurry up, but
That's all right.
One more thing, that is, I was out. We had a little rally at the 19th there, and everybody has a personal horror story. Everyone I spoke to, everyone on the street, it seems like I meet, has a personal horror story or their relative or loved one that has had an encounter with a rogue police officer. And that's an indication of how rampant this is. Good luck, Antonio. We're behind you 100%, bro.
thank you, Colin. That's 3 o'clock Saturday, huh?
That's 3 o'clock Saturday on the front steps of the Austin Police
Hey,
Department.
boy, yeah, I will have to say this much now. I've met lots of cops being outlaw truck driver, and none of them have really been bad. But I will say that we have I'm a big salesman of Austin. We have a professional fire, police, EMS. Our police are some of the best paid in the entire country. We shouldn't have to put up with any of this.
That's right.
We should have nothing but the most, for the amount we're paying, we should have, yes, sir. They should be telling us, yes, sir, and no, sir. Oh, man, would you please get your drunk butt out? We're paying a lot. DPS op troopers will quit to come to work and weigh trucks for the Austin Police Department because Austin pays better than DPS for skills like weighing trucks. If you want to be a cop, weigh trucks, but the only kind I know. As much as we're paying, would you agree to that? We're paying for professional police. These
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're called public servants.
Guys, yeah, they should be telling us.
They should be served. They should serve the public.
And if you've given 300 DWIs in 1 year, then you ought to be used to it by now, not get so riled up. I'm sorry. Anything before I go to the next one? Go ahead, caller.
Yes. I first want to say thank you, Antonio, for standing up. Thank you, all that are sitting here on this board. And I have encountered personally myself with APD, and I was arrested under some old paper that they found on me that I had not done a class. And but yes, there's a lot of police brutality out there, and I would love to be there at 3 o'clock. But I applaud you for standing up for our rights. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
Sure.
you can say it more.
So, thank you to everyone who's been saying thank you, but I just have to say that there are the 3 witnesses who stepped forward. Those people are heroes too. They stepped forward on their own. One with video. They've all given affidavits. They're all going to be in court, if they take this to court, to testify against these cops. And it takes courage for people to do that. And without those 3 witnesses, this would be a very different situation for me and for the other 2 victims. So, those 3 people should be commended. They're as much heroes as anyone else.
Well, this, if I can chime in, this goes through all levels of government. If we don't hold public servants accountable for their actions, all of us, then they're going to get away with stuff. They're going to do stuff at every level from the president on down if we aren't watching them and making sure that whatever they do, they're held accountable for.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on them. That's my first trip to the state capitol was back in '94 or something. And you go to the committee hearing room back then, and there was nobody there. They'd all look at you. Oh, I used to go to this federal trial, and they'd all stare at you when you go in. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had me a pad of paper and I'd act like I was, And they would all stare. It makes a difference when you show up to these things.
Well, it used to be that way at the Austin City Council too.
Yeah.
It used to be Robert Snider was in there harassing them, and no one else was there.
Yeah.
And eventually that
That
changed.
was years ago.
Of course,
Yep,
they still don't respond very much, but people are at least trying to hold them accountable now.
Well, and if you tell them the truth, you get suspended like our old friend
Please,
Bush,
Steve.
Well, friend
yeah,
John Bush
yeah.
got what 4 years,
Yeah.
4 months or
Well, I think
suspension.
he
He's
said they
back.
kicked him
He's
off,
back.
but-
He's back as of
He's
last
back.
week. But yeah, I think that those are kind of tactics that intimidate the public from wanting to speak out
Right.
and take correct the wrong. But like you say, yeah, it what do you expect, or what do you think should happen aside from having the charges dropped?
Austin Police Department should do a real investigation. They should file charges against these two cops for the crimes that they committed, or the sheriff or the feds. They should certainly be taken off the beat. I don't know why they're still walking around town with badges and guns. They should be at desk duty at best. They should do some internal review. What uses of force? I know that they had a problem with this in the past. Maybe they should go reread the DOJ letter that was given to them on the appropriate use of force and revise that. I think that the city of Austin should stand up and get outraged.
But they have a past history.
Oh
that's well
yeah,
established.
the Statesman
They
back
do?
in
These
2000.
two are the
No, the force is
The
a foil.
force, yeah. I mean, the DOJ came down and did an investigation of Austin because of this. But also, we have a mayor who's coming up for re-election. He's been quiet on this. And we have a city council who's been quiet on it. There's a woman named Laura Presley who's running. Maybe it's time that we just clean house.
She was on there 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, but another reason why they're real quiet
Should
about
be
it
back.
is because the union has endorsed, for example, the mayor,
Yep.
and probably
Powerful political endorsement.
powerful political
But the question
endorsement.
is, who does the mayor serve? Who does Art Acevedo serve? Do they serve the people or do they serve these unions?
They serve 20,000 voters in Hyde Park and Tarrytown. That's who they serve, because we don't have single-member districts. To get a plug-in for another thing that's going on right now is the effort to get single-member districts out there, so that everyone will have representation. So minority groups, so political minorities, so everyone in the city, every neighborhood will have someone they can go to represent them in government.
There's a lot going on out there. How do you keep track of all of it? I'm trying to keep a bag to band, geographic representation, and now this too.
It all fits in together some way.
I better crank my old air up to about 4 or 5 and keep on going.
Yeah, Margaret Fraser says, well, not too many people file complaints. Well, why are they going to file complaints if there's no resolution?
later, 2 years
I mean,
A lot of people are afraid to file complaints. I've had numerous people come to me and tell me their own personal stories of abuse, 2 of which were so horrendous that I begged them to go to the media with it or go report it, but they're afraid to. But people don't do it because they feel like the only thing that's going to come out of it is retaliation, and we've seen it.
Like
Look,
Mexico.
right, or like what happened to the female passenger. She was assaulted. She was falsely charged with public intoxication. She comes out. She says she's going to fight it. She tells her story to the media. 11 days later, they come back and hit her with 2 more charges. 11 days later. Why does that happen?
And
is that
she
normal?
She just said to the driver the same thing that Jamie Balagia says in his TV ads, to advise all potential clients not to take the test. And if you can say that on TV, why can't you say it to a person in person with the cops there?
And why should you get yanked from a car and thrown to the ground for saying it?
Yeah.
A black woman was being given a field sobriety test in the cold. She seemed to be getting bossed around by the cops. And we both took notes. They had her doing the heel-to-toe test in high-heel shoes, huh? That's a good way. No wonder he gets 300 DWIs.
Yeah, I mean, if it looks like you're walking wobbly. I wonder why.
I walk wobbly all the time. I mean,
When you're in high heels.
I'm not even in high heels. I can still do it. We're not gonna go there. That's unbelievable stuff. And you haven't had any kind of harassment since? Just nothing solid.
I've actually had cops come up to me and pat me on the back, and there was one gentleman a couple weeks ago. We were walking down Cesar Chavez. He came up and he talked to me. A parking meter guy said something positive. No, I haven't had any issues. I mean, of course, I don't drive around late at night. I don't. I avoid going out. I'm not going out to 6th Street or anything. I'm trying to be prudent about it. I don't want to find myself in the wrong situation.
Yeah, I hope you don't go out by yourself too often.
Not since
not
January
anymore.
1st.
It's always good to have a backup.
Well, you know, Austin, from that perspective, is still a small town, if you will, because like in this case, not only does a lot of the public now know you, but for sure APD, all APD officers know who you are by now. And once they see you down the street, they're gonna make sure that they keep a close eye and close visual as to what steps you take.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to go 1 mile over speed limit. I try not to do rolling stops, and I try not to turn the wrong way.
It may cut both ways though, because they may try to avoid doing anything to you because there's already a higher profile situation that they don't want to escalate.
That's true. Let's go ahead and try one. Go ahead, caller.
This is Nate.
Hey, Nate, Brisket Master. What's going on?
Hey, am I on the air?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Antonio.
Hey.
Brisket Master.
Dave Nall, how you doing?
Yeah.
I don't even know what his last name is. Brisket Master. Anyway. Go ahead, Nate.
Antonio is, he's charged with, what is it, harassing? What's the charge, Antonio?
Harassment of a public servant and resisting arrest.
And that's what the spitting was about, right?
The false accusation spit, that's right.
Right, false, I'm sorry, yeah, that's what it is. So, but, you know, I know a lot of people are saying that you would have been charged with assault, but that's what they're saying, that the Oborski claims when you spit on him, that's what that charge is about, the felony harassment. And it's all ridiculous. They won't release the dash cam because it basically proves that you know they have no case. So I think they're going to end up dropping the charges, and I'm positive on this whole thing. I think they're going to drop the charges, and they don't ever want this dash cam video to be released. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, you got this link to you made a open records request. Who are all these people? Oh, that's your attorney? I thought they had to give it to your attorney. Oh, there it is. I thought they had to give it to your attorney
Well,
if they requested.
this was a letter that they sent to the Attorney General requesting permission to suppress it, you know, for purposes of
I see.
investigation.
If I read the darn letter, maybe I'd figure it out, huh?
To suppress the open records request.
Oh, this is to Greg Abbott asking him to suppress the evidence.
That's right.
Yeah, my feeling is they don't ever want this dash cam video to go on YouTube. That's what I think.
It'll expose 2 of their cops for being liars, for assaulting and then falsely arresting people, for trying to send them to prison for crimes that they didn't commit. And then even worse than that, it'll expose the police chief and you know whoever it is up there that makes decisions for covering for these 2 criminal cops and pushing forward with something which could potentially ruin people's lives. You know, felonies and
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Felony, you can't. You lose your hand.
You lose a lot of
another
things.
thing, they took me to the bat truck, what they call the bat truck,
yeah,
where the breathalyzer is, and they made me blow. And I asked them why. Are you coming up with charges? And they said, you know, are you gonna blow? And so I said, yes, I'll do it, just because I want to see how ridiculous the score is. I blew twice, 2 long sustained blows. I asked him what my score was, and he said, you blew too hard, you broke it. You're the first person who ever broke it. And you know, and I think that they were just looking for something to get me on, to teach me a lesson.
Are they getting for destroying public property with your heavy blowing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I got a check in the mail.
And you said you were by yourself, or you were with someone else?
I was with a friend. He was sitting there taking photos. He was actually closer to them because he was on the passenger side. He was closer to them. He was closer to the 2 officers. He was taking video or trying to take photos the entire time as well. You know, the only thing that happened to him was when a woman came up to give him her information. She said, I saw everything. I'm willing to be a witness. A cop stepped in between and said, sit down in that truck right now or you'll be arrested. And so, you know, that's what happened.
That's intimidating a witness.
Yeah.
Well, and the witness across the street who took the video, after the whole affair was over, because he saw the whole thing unfold. He stopped when he saw the the field sobriety test, because he same thing. Woman in high heels, like, this is absurd. So he watched the whole thing, and after it was all over, he just yelled to them, what are you guys doing? You know, why are you arresting everyone? And they yelled back across the street, if you don't move along, you're going to be the fourth person arrested tonight. And he said, why? What am I doing wrong? And they said, it's 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve. That was their answer. You know,
So how many other troopers showed up? How many other police after your
according to the guy across the street, there were 7 in total. 7 in total.
Once
While
they put that call out, they
Yeah.
come out. That's how they do it. They intimidate you. You're right.
But what happened? What happened that night at about the same time? 2.5 miles north. There's a guy running around town, assaulting women, killed one, but they had 7 people on non-violent people who committed no crime, and they're drumming up charges against them
Anything
because
else,
they're
Nate?
more worried about revenue.
Yeah,
It's a lot
I would
easier
like
to
to
do
make
that.
one other point that
Quickly.
the reason that this became such a huge story is because Antonio did not sit idly by and just let this happen to him. He posted stuff on Craigslist and all over the place to try to get people, witnesses, to come out, and they did. And everybody needs to do this. If instead of just letting APD do whatever it is they want to do, you should step up and protect yourself and get the public behind you.
Yeah. I could admit that. Yeah, just think of just a handful more people that stopped their cars and got out.
Right, and I think that this is a good
They'd had
lesson, if you will, or where, because nowadays every cell phone has a camera.
Yeah. except for
So
mine, but
you know, so those individuals that happen to witness something like you just witnessed should take out that camera and begin taking pictures or videos, so that you know, if anything, it should prevent the cops from doing what they may do if they knew, you know, if they weren't aware that someone was, you know, taking pictures or videotaping their whole process.
it's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 people stop, and you never know. Thank you, Nate. Anything else?
That'll do it. Good show tonight, and Ron Paul 2012.
3 o'clock Saturday. You gonna be there?
I'm gonna try.
I'll let you by. Thank you, Nate.
Bye.
Hold on, let's hurry up. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, how you guys doing today? Great show. Obviously, not all the cops are really bad. Like, you know, like there's only the 2%ers that I would say, but the cops are not what they used to be. Now they're called law enforcement officers, and they think that because they have that title, they can enforce the law away from the law, not within the law. And I think it was one of the major problems. When I was a young kid, we used to call them peace officers. They maintain the peace, and that's what they ought to be. But they're not law enforcement officers. They claim that they have all the power in the world to do whatever they want, but that's not really it. But, and also, I'd like to say hello to Gavino. Gavino, how you doing? This is
All right.
Pete,
Who's this?
Pete Diaz.
Oh, how you doing, Pete?
Yeah, I've got the Spotlight show. I'm watching your show, and the gentleman there with the suspenders, they you know me, but I see you around.
Okay.
Well, you can
Yeah.
anytime you want.
Well, he invited me to begin sharing the show with him because we have two extremes here, so that's why we're sitting across from each other.
Yeah,
But
we're kind of two different.
Hey,
different
great
sides
show,
of the
man.
coin.
Great show.
and I love your show, Pete.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be on tomorrow from 7 to 8, Spotlight show, and come on by anytime, Gavino.
Sure, absolutely.
I'll see you guys later.
I appreciate it, Pete.
All right.
Yeah, now I lost my train of thought there. I got to go back to they're the best paid police in the entire state, at the top 10 of the whole country. They really ought to be the most professional. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that back in up till like the 20s and 30s, even into the 40s, police weren't allowed to carry guns.
That's right.
And when they did, they had to keep them concealed because the citizens wouldn't put up with it. Sheriffs and constables were elected. They carried guns, and they could assign deputies to do it. City police weren't allowed to, because you wouldn't allow the citizens, like the one lady was saying about what man, in the old days, they would have never let nobody treat a woman like that.
Well, what happened to that peace officer that would walk down the neighborhood, stop by your house, drink coffee, keep on going,
You pour your beer out, and then
there you go, meet your neighbors, and absolutely do the walk beat, and that's one of the things that we need more of. My old friend Billy Cifuentes was a model for that, and it's sad that this current administration and previous administrations have really not pushed that walking beat, because I think that is one of the walking beach is one that really gets they get more engaged with the neighborhood, and they also get to know some of the people and really understand each other, the police. I think the POW program, like you say, APD has the POW program, the Police Activities League, where that is a process where at a very young age, people in the community start working with APD and see them from a different light. But in this case, there are folks that I don't know where they were raised or where they were before they came to Austin, but you do have some that just totally go on their own, and like the gentleman said, they become judge and jury.
I guess you get paid so much. What happened there? Oh, call back. The old lady hung up on you. She always does that to me. Yeah, we're lucky we got the phones up, but usually we can't figure it out.
There was this big old discussion with John Bush and that whole organization about the Fusion Center. Here we have this Fusion Center, and everyone should know from A to C who, if you arrest someone, who that is. And by God, like I told Margot Fraser, I said, with all the technology that we have in place, could the SWAT team at least go and do inmate search and find out that the guy was in jail before they went out to this home and did this whole SWAT approach?
Yeah, I thought the Fusion Center was designed.
That's what it was for. Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
If you're looking for somebody, they'll tell you right off.
Well, I'm not a fan of these fusion centers. When I got arrested, when I went through booking, they took my photo, a mugshot. My mugshot's going to be on the internet. It's going to be posted forever. I had fingerprints, so I'm now in the database, all because a cop, abused his authority. Why should my information be shared with all types of federal agencies just because a cop was out of control? Completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I made a trip to Sheriff Greg Hamilton's holiday camp, and I've been to holiday camp down there in Bastrop County too. I had a problem wearing seatbelts, and I just refused to. Outlaw truck driver, and they threw me in jail. They won't do that anymore. They want the money.
Yeah.
I just go to jail. That's overcrowding in jail. They book you in, book you out for something stupid like this, and I wouldn't have to pay. But now they said, no, we're not going to give you your license and tell you. And being a truck driver, I had to pay. That's pretty bad. All right, ready? Go ahead, caller.
Hello, panel. I want to talk about peace between the citizens and the APD.
Go ahead.
I have seen a lot of injustice, and I know Gavino knows my face probably more than he knows my name. My name is Clotilde. I've had family members that have struggled and have been in the work of civil rights all our lives, but having come from the perspective of probably all of you, including you, young man, that you have been victimized, and it's a terrible thing, but I can tell you the most important thing is to see that we do have to put the peace between us, as well as do hold these individual policemen accountable. And that's the one thing I cannot understand, is that how come they can't just fire bad policemen, because the whole thing to this, too, is that we're all human. Please, I want Austin to remember, we make errors whether we're in law enforcement or not, and I have been in law enforcement, but I have also had the hell beat out of me unjustifiably. And like that young man, they kept charging me with more charges when I interrupted into a beating going on between a street person and a bunch of rich young men in September of 1986. And it went on in the court. And yes, I was harassed. So a lot of good facts are being presented. But I also want to ask the audience and for everyone in your panel to remember El Paz que tenemos, that we have in nuestro corazón, and that we do know what our struggles have been as citizens, not just of people in the civil rights.
Did I hear you say something about a meeting with young men and some rich young men?
Yes, that was in September of 1986. I was studying criminal law here, and I was with a friend, and of course that never made it into the media. But several years later, they dropped the charges, but they kept putting more charges on me. They didn't know what else to charge me with.
Well,
but
I was wondering how you came up with the term rich young men.
Well, they were rich UT students.
They could afford to buy the right lawyers.
And they did, and they got off, and I've never been able to find that young man. I do remember his name was Joey Robles, and my name was Clotilde Matson. At that time, I had been married for a short period, and it was so appalling. And I mean, they beat me. I bled. They tore my clothes. I was black and purple, and I didn't have the technology that there is today. So there is some good to be said about our modern technology, but it's something that you never forget. And I'll tell you even more. I tried to go back and get my records so that I could go ahead and look into them, and they've told me that there is no way that I can ever look into those records.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big one of the items that has helped your particular cases of the exposure of all the technology, the YouTubes, and the people responding to that has raised the level of interest, not only from the community, but also from APD, in the sense that they can no longer get away with saying that that's not true. Here we have technology that's indicating and showing otherwise.
Well, oftentimes, and I don't want to speak bad about all cops, but in this country we have an epidemic where certain demographics are targeted, blacks and Hispanics, or people in poor neighborhoods, whites in poor neighborhoods, and when you throw all these charges at people and they see their life going one of two ways, and they don't have the money to get good representation, and they don't have witnesses, it's easy oftentimes for people just to side with the word of the cop. I was lucky in this case. I have witnesses. There's video. Okay, I don't have a record. I'm not underrepresented minority. I have a background that people give me undue credit for. I mean, the fact that I went to West Point, that I served in the military, that I went to Stanford, that should have no bearing on this. Unfortunately, it does, and people pay attention to me because of it.
I think we give you credit because I believe you would have done that regardless.
But if I was a young
you had no idea that the guy was across the street or anything, did you?
Right, no, but if I was a young black male who with a past record, if I had possession of marijuana charge on me at some point in the past.
You might have felt twice about it, or?
No, well, I don't know, but no one would care. And everyone would believe the cops. Oh, here's this young punk. He was doing something wrong.
Yeah, I'd have said, hey, he's got a dope record, and who knows what else.
Exactly. I mean, you have long hair, and you're young, and the police probably looked at you and didn't take you seriously right off. And that's a mistake. They should know better than that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to tell you guys, I had to throw in there the card that my brother was a retired brigadier general. Once I threw that card in, they were starting to wonder about this lady who, what was she? She had a foreign name, but she certainly looked more indigenous than anything. And I mean, there's just still too much racism that still exists. And I know we all pray that it just goes away, and it doesn't seem to be going away. But what is unfortunately what it does create is this fear, and that's a fear that you see whether like in an adult or you have seen as a child. And for some of us, we have seen that in our entire lives. But would it be fair for you all to agree with me that it's a point of accountability? You have some bad law enforcement people, well, fire them, get rid of them, but admit to the truth if you made a mistake, especially now with this. Yeah. Okay, guys. Okay. So I certainly thank y'all for the call, and I hope that things go better like that. But I can tell you that from a personal standpoint, it was just unbelievable. I had seen that as a child, but to be grown up, and I was studying criminal law, and for this to happen, and for charges after charges. They were trying to get me for abusive language, alcohol, and it just went on and on. It was the UT Law Clinic that, in the end, is the one that helped me, and the charges were dropped. But you can imagine that it definitely changed me. That's what I'm going to tell you. But for a positive in many ways, and
Well,
I
thank
pray
you.
there be peace between
Thank you
us.
for your call. It's
Sure.
very, very educating.
Yeah, we've got about a minute left here, folks. Thank you, ma'am. It was. And there's a. All right. Anyway, we appreciate you coming on.
Saturday at 3
Saturday,
o'clock.
3 o'clock. Yeah, we were supposed to have the constables on tonight, but something happened, so they're all going to be on next week. And then after that, be Judge Charlie Bird on first. Well, that's into February. But we appreciate you coming on. I know this was short notice. We've been arguing about Ron Paul people on the Facebook, and so somehow or another got stretched off into you too, and so we just I'm glad y'all could come on quick. TJ had to leave quick, but at least he made it for a little while. I knew he always had something to say. Any last things? You got a minute left. Dave?
Go out and vote.
10-4.
Yep, that's a message for this year is vote, 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 vote. I mean that's the evaluation time. Okay, so we need people that are very active, that participate in marches and whatnot, to get people to march to that poll on that one day. And if we get them to vote, it'll change a lot of things.
10-4, and yeah, these down ballot races are still important, like we keep trying to bring on for you out here, folks. Constables, they'll be here next week, a handful of them. They're really important. I'm working on getting some city council people on. How much time we got? 10 seconds? Anyway, we'll be back next week, folks. Hope Gavino keeps showing.
All right. Thank you.
You can wait. I got 10 seconds, son. 3. Oh, anyway. I thought you went till 30. Well, she turned off the lights on us.
The house lights are up and.
All right, let it on, folks. 2 seconds. Night, night.